Hey, good morning. Odd morning shave for me today. Finest Badger from Stirling. Getting back to this one that I used several times in a row. I tried the Best Badger from Simpson in a Duke 3, and I enjoyed it. A little too scrubby for me. However, the owner told me, who's loaning it to me, very generous of him, told me to let the brush not soak. And when I say not, I just mean the bristle part. I don't mean the base of it or anything. Just let that soak for longer. Maybe I didn't give it enough time to soak, and this tips will soften up a little bit more. Today was a little bit of a rushed shave, and I didn't have time to dedicate to that, so maybe tomorrow. WR2 from Wolfman. This is the 85 gap, and I have soaked this for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. I probably could have soaked the other one. I was a little bit delayed. PolSilver is the blade today, and this one has had 17 uses. So let's see what a 17 use PolSilver. And this is one I'm going to marathon. And so I put an X on it. Let's get ready to put that in. As of late, Stirling has been my go-to soap. I want to see this tub specifically, R4L, Responders for Life, and it's an awesome scent inspired by Tom Ford Gray Vetiver. A very close, as far as I know, scent to that one. So let's put this blade in. I don't recommend. Usually I put the blade to the side while I unscrew the handle, and then I bring everything up in my hand together. I wouldn't recommend doing what I just did. All right, so I put the blade in the top cap. And the way I do it this way, since I hold my hand flat, when this guy starts turning, there's nothing for him to touch, nothing for him to cut. All right, and this razor is one of those that seats it perfectly every time, because of the kind of guide bars and stuff. All right, so let's get this brush back in the water so that I can start by shaking off the right amount of water. Okay, I measured, this is still 221 grams, so it looks like I'm using less than 1 gram per use, but that's one kind of measurement that needs to be done over time. Today is Sunday morning, and so I think 5 shaves or something like that I've done off this guy. Let's see, how many seconds? Let's do a 10-second load, and no, you know what? Let's do a 7-second load, just like that chiseled face, and see if I end up with enough lather. Okay, as my usual, I'm going to shake the water out. Why do I shake the water out instead of starting with some in the brush? Because to be able to tell you how much water I'm using, I have to try to start out with a lightly wet brush, because this guy holds 8.5 teaspoons of water. And so if you have a brush that holds half as much water, then obviously that's going to mess up the water calculations. And so that's why I start with a lightly wet brush, no matter what brush I have. All right, so 7 seconds. Can you believe that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. How about that? That would be crazy if that's enough water. I'm sorry, enough soap. But I bet it'll do 2 passes. And right now, since I'm in a bit of a rush, that might be just fine. And that's actually why I decided to do that. So 7 seconds. Now it worked with chiseled face. When I was using that, soap every day, I got away with a 7-second load, and it was with a boar brush. It was with this exact boar brush. Now, boars tend to be more, have a little bit more backbone sometimes than badgers. I don't believe that's the case here. I think this brush actually has more backbone than that particular boar. That's where I'm trying to work it down. That's why I'm trying to exercise it, use it a lot, I think right now it's at 28 uses, 26 uses, something like that, but I want to put more in it, more uses in it, so that I can may hopefully get it to a point where it's an enjoyable brush for me. Right now it's just a little too hard to splay. I have to work hard to press it in, that sort of thing. Most of my other brushes aren't that way. Now that's good for the public, because I think a lot of people don't like them as soft as I do. They like that backbone. A lot of current reviewers out there, anytime they talk about backbone, they'll say not helpful words like wonderful backbone, perfect backbone, excellent backbone. How's that helpful? Because where you like your backbone, I have no idea unless you tell me high, medium, low, that sort of thing. You have to use objective words like that to communicate. And look, 7 seconds of loading, and that's how much lather I have. Probably going to be plenty. 2 teaspoons of water is what I've gotten away with the 10-second load. Right now I've got 1.5 in there. Let's see if that's all I need or if I need to add more. Seven seconds of loading, and it looks like I'm going to have a good amount of lather. Now, if you let this soap sit for a year, a month, it may dry out more, and so you may need to have a little bit more water added. I'm sorry, you may need to load for a little bit longer. That's normal. But this is the one I've used yesterday and the day before, so it's going to have just a little bit of moisture still in the puck to make the top surface soft, to be able to have soap picked up off of it. That hard surface dries up with infrequent use, then that's why you have to load for a little bit longer. Yeah, look at that. That's plenty of soap. 7 seconds. Can you believe that? Let's roll with this. Let's do it. All right. That's 7 seconds. That's funny. I get a crack out of that. Water on my face. I was actually so excited about trying the 7 seconds. I was so distracted that I forgot to do my pre-shave routine, which is splash some water on my face. So we're not going to do that today. We'll see how that changes things. Oh, and remember, with this brush, since it's so dense in the middle, that I need to jam it down into the lather so that the lather comes into the knot to spread it out, to make it less dense because of the lather that's in place. That's my current theory. It's okay when we're doing this scrubbing type motion where we're pressing in just a little bit. Now, some people just like to stay on the tips only, and that's a choice for each user to make. I feel I like the comfort and the feel of the splay. I like to press it in just a little bit and really feel those good tips. And right now, it's okay that it's so transparent, because when we switch to this type of motion, we're going to get a thicker load. And also with this brush, it's so dense that I'm just often, I have to go back on the first pass. I have to go back and get some more lather, because it just doesn't seem to hold on to the lather on the first pass. It's like I always need to go back and get more. And this is a nice wet lather. Maybe I should have spent a little bit more time stirring it, but we'll just go with it. It'll be fine, I'm sure. All right, now, usually I like to spend a little more time with this first pass on my face to have it kind of bond with my skin, condition my skin a little bit more, to provide for that nice slick shave. But since we're in a rush today, we will not do that. All right, PolSilver. Gillette Platinum has been my favorite blade with this particular razor so far. Now that's going to vary per user. At least it can. The Platinum may be your favorite as well, and that could mean that you and I have similar hair, thickness, hair density, hair, direction and pliability and skin type and a bunch of other metrics. Wouldn't it be neat if we could somehow find other people with similar skin as our own, and then we could skin and beard and all those other variables, and somebody who likes to mix lather kind of like you do, because that can make a big difference too. Find those people, and then if you could magically find them, then their interpretations and their opinions about what razors match what blades. Of course, they'd have to have the same razors as you, or at least some common ones. Their opinions would matter. But since that's not in place, and it's probably never going to be in place, blade recommendations from your fellow users are pretty much useless, and sometimes actually head you down the wrong roads. Definitely been people out there, when asking you what's the best blade out there, they get some well-meaning, trying to be helpful person, but that person just doesn't know that blades are so subjective. They just think that since it works for me, it should work for you, and they recommend, and then a guy buys maybe 100-pack of Vashkods or whatever their favorite blade happens to be. Well, the other guy has a different razor and a different face, different lathering style, and so those it's a crapshoot as to whether those are going to be a great blade for him. So any blade recommendations made that you may see online, where the guy says so and such is the best blade, well, they are betraying their ignorance, that it may be well intentioned and they may just be trying to help, and that's awesome. That's a great thing about this community. But they are misguided, and they're betraying that the fact that they don't know how subjective blades are. And it's kind of nice that blades are that way, because sometimes a person can find an inexpensive blade that is just the magic for them. And so, companies can't figure out the best blade and then price it the highest. So it's nice, because there's no best blade, there's no objective best blade. Well, this lather's been great, a little bit on the wet side, but I bet if I would have spent more time with it, it would have settled down just fine. But usually going a little too wet might serve you well, because you get slickness, especially if I think the majority of people out there actually have lathers that are too dry. And so going a little wetter, actually, so I think many times will take a person into a nice slick area that they've never experienced before. And less irritation on your face because of the improved slickness, because of the improved protection. A lot of good benefits for having a lather that's in that zone of slickness, that's right on the edge of creaminess right there, at least in my opinion. All right. That was the second pass, and yeah, I've got enough lather for a third. We rinse. There we go. If you have a goatee and you rinse between passes, then you may want to dab the water out of it. Jam this guy down into the lather. And this, I got a feeling I could squeeze out another bit out of the brush if I needed a touch up. So in a way, this is probably the most, and there's just a little bit after 3 passes, a little bit left in the bowl for a touch up or whatever. So this is pretty much the perfect amount of lather. This brush is still taking, you do not have to scrub like this on the second and third passes. I do because I'm trying to work this brush. But normally, since you've already done all that scrubbing in the first pass, you can immediately, let's pretend I'm starting over again, just spread it out, spread the lather out with a painting stroke like this. And once you get that nice layer everywhere, then you're good to go. I'm just trying to exercise the brush, give him lots of work so that maybe he opens up more. And also, if I've got a comfortable brush, I may do that when it's unnecessary because I love the feel. I love that splayed feel. It's like a massage. And if you get a nice soft brush with a low backbone, it's like a massage with, you know, puppy feet or something like that. It's luxurious as well as nice and soft, comfortable. Okay, now this is the third pass. I'm going to go this direction, and that is a great, I'm glad I remembered to do that. And I'm feeling very little cutting action on this pass, and so that's really good because those first two passes must have been just super effective. So I've had a comfortable shave so far. The PolSilver, even one that is 17 uses old, has given me a great shave. If you only take blades to 3 uses or something like that, you could be missing out on a very smooth zone where that initial burr on the edge of the blade has been worn away, and it's now just the sharpness of the blade that's left over. And so sometimes you can find that, and sometimes it takes good technique to get there. If you have crappy technique or your lathers are too dry, then you might not be able to get to that smoothness. It might just be too harsh for you. All right, and of course I'm sure there are some skin types and hair types that can't go that far with a blade. You know, maybe Mediterranean. I've heard the Mediterranean type of beard and follicle in many cases is super dense, but also the hair itself is just super tough, like maybe 2 or 3 times thicker than many other guys out there. I think that's kind of the gist I'm getting, and so obviously those guys might not be able to push blades as far as I do. So I did only add 1.5 teaspoons of water to this batch, and to be honest, since it's so wet, I think I probably could have gotten away with just 1 or maybe 1 1/4 of water. Let's take a look at, oh, nice. I don't think I see length on any hairs, and that is exceptional. This wasn't as comfortable as, it didn't feel quite as a precision instrument as the Gillette Platinum, but I believe this blade, this PolSilver, has given me a shave that's better than most of the other ones. So this is kind of second place next to the Platinum. But I've gotten a great cut, feels terrific without going against the grain. So this is a great match for this razor for people with skin and hair types like me. Nice close cut. Really happy with that. All right, so I'll give you a quick tour of the razor. Now what I do is, when I'm done with my shave and I want to just dry everything off, I put it upside down and I lift the base plate off. Usually the blade stays on this base plate. And so what I do is I put it down and then I draw the base plate away in the direction kind of the blade edges like this, and that way this base plate never dulls either of the edges like that. I usually do this on my little hand towel over there. So now everything's disassembled. So here is the base plate. It's got indentions, 4 indentions for the posts from the top cap, and those keep that blade locked into place. This is a high polish version edition of this Wolfman head. Put that guy over there. Now let's see, we've got and I'll usually dry the handle as well. Usually just the top near the head is what needs to be dried. And then I'll dry this off. And this is the top cap where the business happens. And these bevels over here are what holds the blade at the right angle, and it holds it so close to the edge of the blade that's why it just gives such excellent shaves. Now, fortunately for everyone, there are some other razors out there that hold the blade so close to the edge, like the Gillette Tech, sometimes available for $10 on eBay. It's a vintage razor. It's all brass at the core. I think everything before 1965 or something like that. And so it's a lifetime razor. It's been coated, plated in either chrome or rhodium, or I don't know what they do with the techs. But the Carve Christopher Bradley razor is one that's been out now for a couple of years. It's a wonderful razor that clamps down right near the edge. The Game Changer from Razor Rock, terrific. I like the 85 gap or 84 or whatever. That's the more the wider gap. The 68 wasn't very useful to me because it was just so mild. And so those are all some examples. The Maggard V3M for mild is a Bai Li copy of a Bai Li Chinese razor, and it's a crime that some people are copying those razors and charging $30-$40 for them because they put on some fancy handles or something like that. But Maggard's doesn't do that. They charge you a low cost for that razor head, and that's as it should be because it's a Zamac razor head, but it does clamp down. Actually, kind of similar to this one where it has 4 posts and stuff. They're just not as big, and it clamps down right on the edge. And I think if a person could find a razor that does that, they can find out if they like, and sometimes I'm sure they would, the smoothness of a razor that clamps down so close to the edge that it's just you don't get any chatter, because chatter means vibration. And if you're talking about a blade moving across the surface of your skin, do you really want it to be vibrating and moving up and down? No, you want it to be consistent so that it can be smooth and not have times where it's cutting and then not cutting, or going too deep and sometimes not going too deep. So that is definitely my preference. My most favorite razors by far are the ones that hold it down nice and close to the tip of the edge there of the blade. Fatipes are inexpensive razors, $25, $28. And I find them super comfortable. Even the open comb one that's a little more aggressive, but the mild one can take care of 3 days stubble without a problem. And they both hold the blade down really well. Cleanup time. All right, heading to church. And so I am going to, today my wife is away, and so I'm going to use a scent that she probably doesn't like very much, Hallows. It's got some nice rich dark notes to it. I think maybe a little bit of chocolate or cocoa, but that never really jumped out at me before. Vetiver in there as well. It's just a awesome scent. Almost like a very fall focused scent, like some like burning leaves or that kind of thing is the genre. I don't think actually that, but it's kind of in that vein. And then it's just that vetiver is very heavy. I don't think my wife likes vetiver, so I'll enjoy that today since I'm by myself or just with the kids. All right, Roger Quintero bowl links if you can print with a 3D printer. I'll have a link in the description of the video for you to get those files. Tremendous shave today. I wonder if this, I've got the Hallows on my face here. And so that really changes how this smells. That's very interesting. It does apparently have some commonalities. Interesting. How about that? Soaps are so weak though that they don't really conflict too much with your post-shave product because they're designed not to. They're designed not to. Most of them don't last much longer than half an hour or 45 minutes after your shave. It was a tremendous shave. The razor blade soap as usual and a 7-second load. Can you believe that? That worked as well. And if I was being economical and I wanted this soap to last as long as it possibly could, I think a 7-second load is a good way to go. There's just a little bit of soap left over for you to do touch-ups or anything like that. But if you do a 3-pass shave, then I'd say try the 7 seconds and see if you like that. If you use the same soap every day, like I said earlier. Wow, so excellent shave, and I get to wear one of my favorite scents afterwards, so we're good. All right, now I hope that you got something from this video. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Have a good day.